reactive to the community.
Next segment, which is story and narrative, and for
They're
that,
not doing it right now.
Watch another trailer first.
The tech debt is, yes, exactly. It's a huge problem. Huge problem. It's exactly it. You're not wrong, Lions. We couldn't replicate that in our internal testing.
You're not quite dead.
Great plots are afoot in the Imperium. And the currents of intrigue run deeply. You will go to Arrakis as our agent. You have one task. Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper.
You were sighted fleeing the scene of a terrible crash. Who are you?
You've heard the expression, the spice must flow. I am the man who ensures that it continues to do so.
Dude's got such a fantastic voice. And for a villain.
I dreamed of you. Burst in fire. Twin comets in the sky. The seer of lies. I am terrified of what happens when you awaken.
I really like what they've done aesthetically with most everything.
You can complete the mission.
Every person carries their past with them. Who are you?
That's grandfather right there, man. That's the big one. CIG reminds me of Rockstar. Both companies moved most devs onto another project. Yeah, Squadron 42, GTA 6, right. And sometimes they do make a bug worse rather than fix it. And if they do fix something, then they add 2 more bugs to the equation.
And welcome back.
I would say I was conservative. Super creates 10 new ones.
I'm very much interested in the story and cinematics as well, and I'm very excited to have two guests here now with me to talk about just that. So first of all, we have Leah Talbot, Associate Lead Narrative Designer. Leah, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, sure. Hello, I'm Leah Talbot. So I've been working at Funcom for about 2 years now, and before that I worked for.
So she's the new blood.
Ubisoft, same in narrative, but yeah, this is behind me now. I'm very happy to be working on Dune.
Oh, we're happy to have you. Stole you away. Very happy to have you. And then also we have Niels Ryborg here, who is a producer for character narrative and cinematics as well. So he has lots to talk to us about as well. Niels?
Oh, a little bit of everything. Hello.
That sounds pretty painful, Elise. Yeah, hopefully they will learn from that.
Something like that.
Probably.
Hard to keep track.
She is tiny. You're not wrong, Glitch.
For this, I worked at Paradox Interactive, also stolen away by the greedy Norwegians.
Yeah, those kinds of stories are always super scary, Elise. That's actually, that kind of stuff is why I couldn't stay invested at all
in we also have to talk
in anything from Rockstar. They may be a little more responsive, but there's definitely so much more reporting of hacking and cheating.
Edge to walk is a bit of a balance for us, of course, because we want to talk about story and narrative, but also we don't want to spoil anything. That would be
wiping out users' chests.
But
oh,
talk to us about the alternate timeline.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, that would suck.
So, if you haven't seen some of the cinematics yet,
did they roll back at all or anything?
You will basically be exploring the universe of Dune as you already know it. However, as opposed to the story of the books or the movies.
No rollbacks, as far as I know. That's terrible. Yeah, that kind of thing could definitely drive me from a game too. That would be awful.
Is a bit different because of one big.
A little bit.
Just a tad.
Just a little bit. A little bit different.
Oh, yes, a little bit different because of one major event one choice that Jessica made to bear a daughter instead of.
This is super interesting to me, the alternate timeline thing. I like it.
There's no Paul in this timeline of ours. So this, in turn, allowed Jessica to be rewarded with training as a truth sayer by the Bene Gesserit, the order to which she belongs. And this knowledge has allowed her to see through Dr. Yue's deception, and this is how the Atreides were warned ahead of time of what was going to happen, and they managed to survive the Battle of Arrakis. So in our timeline, Duke Leto is alive, the Atreides are still around, and the Harkonnen as well, because they are not giving up on Arrakis. They are very set on claiming the planet back. And this is basically where we start up in the game. We are...
Yeah, we'll have to see how the PvP plays out, especially in the deep desert. But even in the wrecks beyond the first one, which are PvP in the PvE zone,
a very long conflict,
how much of it will be actual fighting versus just running away and trying to avoid each other.
That you already know. Some of them are still alive.
Yeah,
like,
I was really glad to see the planetology class as well, right?
Of the story.
Minor spoiler.
I am really excited just for the PvE content, right? I'm not anti-PvP at all, but you know, and I have a group of people that I'm going to be playing with at least as we get started. So I'll be that'll be fun, I think.
You can comment on that.
But I could spend a lot of hours
really everything with this
just exploring and building.
It's built around the idea that we need to get some kind of player agency into the game, right? So people familiar with the books or with the movies know that Paul, you know, inevitably becomes the Kwisatz Haderach. He gains the ability to see the future as it's going to unfold. And, you know, for people who are fans of the later books, they know how he also kind of gets trapped in the future. He cannot fully change it. He simply
absolutely true.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Now, in any video game, it should be a little bit more about the
one
player,
with all the PvE skills is the one that'll be reaping the most benefit from the PvP resource area.
It kind of suck if all the decisions that you go in and try and make.
So it will be interesting.
Don't really amount to anything because everything is already predetermined, right? So getting rid of Paul gives us the ability to have a story that is actually more dynamic. Suddenly, you know, who you ally yourself with and the people you choose to help or not to help, it can all kind of have an actual real impact on the story, right? And it's been really interesting because it's also kind of changed how we work with the just with the IP holders, for instance, right? So we work with the Herbert estate, of course, to kind of go through everything story related, make sure everything's, you know, signed off and happy. But our conversations, due to this choice, become much more frequently about like what are the natural consequences of the world that's been created from Paul not existing.
Detect the most dense spice locations is going to be super important. But all the extra, gathering extra, using less fuel, etc.
Really exciting way of working with an IP.
It's also nice that we got that stamp of approval from the Herberts as well, right? So not people got to say like, well, they just did whatever they wanted, which is not the case really, because we did kind of throw it back as well, and there is reasons for that change that are very important for the game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right, to kind of get in and delve into the world where, like Leia was mentioning, right, like we've got characters like Peter DeVries or Duncan Idaho who are still around. You know, they're not dead, spoiler. In our version of the game, and so you get the opportunity to, you know, potentially meet and talk to some of them.
Also, talking about meeting people that you know, you do not necessarily have to know the Dune universe, right? Like you can still jump into the game and it will still be interesting.
Yes.
Punishing the cheater exploiter is only part of the equation there, though, right? I do think that it's important that you make sure you can prove who it is, but you need to be able to respond and correct the situation as well.
Frank's books in particular, but for the whole to the whole canon in general.
Yeah, it seems like they should have been able to assess that they were cheating.
Only watched the movie when it came out
relatively quickly.
A game that they can perfectly pick up, no problem. We
hopefully the whole thing was a learning experience for them, though, and it won't happen again.
Obviously, when they become relevant. Otherwise, the player will just get to explore the world and learn about all those things by themselves. And so they shouldn't be scared of playing this game.
Exactly.
They will be welcomed with open arms.
So we can say that we have actually, especially for the survival game genre, which we're not only a survival game, but for the survival game genre, we have a very important and really laid out and thought through story, including like cinematics and full voiceovers and everything. So do you have to play through the story, or I'm pretty sure people will?
So like most game, we have an introduction, which is basically the main story, telling you how to play the game. Basically a big tutorial teaching you how to survive on Arrakis. You will need some guidance, let me tell you. This is not an easy task. And the main story is there in the beginning to guide you a little bit and help you get your bearings in this very hostile world. But then past a certain point, when you've acquired all the schematics that you need, you basically don't have to follow the main story if this is not your thing, if you are just a hardcore survival player. Yeah, I agree, obviously. I think you absolutely should.
I can't imagine playing a game like this and not playing through the story, but I can understand the different focus from other players. That might be a very interesting way to go, Elise. In one of the PvP pockets.
Very interesting to play through the story. But it's nice
to get a taste of the deep desert.
Because if you're not that interested in story-driven,
and yeah, you should be able to get more loot from the chests, from the shipwrecks and all of that too.
I'm not interested in, but again, do it. Like really, you will regret it if you don't. Just let me put that out there. But anyway, talking about main story, are there other narrative or story elements that you can experience in the game?
Yes, of course.
As if I didn't know the answer.
No, I mean exactly. But like, of course, we're making a survival game. It's not necessarily a genre that is like super focused on storytelling normally, but we're also working with the Dune IP. And it would be such a waste not to make full use of it, right? Like 100%. This is a very personal and political and philosophical IP. And
there's a lot of approaches that they can take. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of story stuff over time.
Both
in DLC.
And the story choices, right? So like was already mentioning, part of the way we tutorialize you into kind of how to survive on Arrakis, it's kind of driven both through gameplay and story kind of intermingling. You need to do a bit of story in order to get to the game. You need to do a bit of game to get into the story, right? And we continue kind of with this philosophy for most things. Like survival is not something that you do entirely on your own. Humans have never really done that, right? And so other people will be involved, other characters. And the second you have characters involved, drama, stories kind of naturally unfold. One of the things, for instance, story-wise, that you can get into is, at the start of the game, you pick what your background is. Where are you from? Who are you? Who is your mentor? Right? Who your mentor is decides what your starting ability is.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Unlike certain MMOs, we're not really class-based. You're not.
And I kind of think that you should have to do the story.
You have the ability to learn really anything from,
even if it's just the main story, so that everybody has got some kind of guidance as to what's going on in the world.
Kind of the weirding ways of the Bene Gesserit, or kind of how to be a sword master, or anything of that kind. If you're familiar with the IP, you'll know like these are skills that are difficult to acquire. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. If you want to learn them, you're going to need a teacher, a trainer. And if you want someone to invest the kind of time in you, you need to convince them that you're worth their time, right? So we've got storylines revolving around, Bene Gesserit, sword masters, mentats, and so on, existing on Arrakis that you need to track down, find, convince.
I want to absorb the story as well, although there are certain things that I will be super impatient for.
Maybe they'll help you out.
I mean, I got to see,
side quests
most of the first two zones.
Kind of blown away.
So I'm going to tend to push there a little bit more.
Some of you might know who saw the combat stream. I love Swordmaster, and when I had to go out and actually
not in too big a hurry.
Work on getting
just want to enjoy it all,
so to speak, with the advanced Swordmaster. I was surprised. I was like fully voiced cinematics.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was
it's interesting to come into it without any preconceptions.
Cinematics or so, but I thought that was very cool. I have to say, like again, I was very surprised about that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're kind of
I wonder how much of the community will be in your abode, right? With no book, no movie.
Going to be done with some of these characters just with launch. You will see some of these becoming a recurring cast over the future as well.
Exciting. So, Leah, some other things that we can expect, story and narrative-wise?
Yeah, I mean, it's still an open world game. So as such, it doesn't just have the main story. It has, as Niels mentioned, a lot of different content, side quests, people you meet, factions you'll encounter. This is a world that is in turmoil, that is always off balance. There is no like big power keeping all of these people in order, so there's a bit of a power vacuum. So
I think that's a double-bladed sword, at least, because you're right.
With a lot of content.
The other media would spoil some of the fresh experience, but I wonder about the Easter eggs that you might not really pick up on.
We have a bunch of different channels playing Atreides or Harkonnen propaganda, and those are very fun to listen to while you're.
See, I didn't play Conan.
Surviving,
I watched some videos, and the combat seems a little bit
well, at least you'll be
chaotic and janky to me. But Dune has got its jank too. I'll be interested to see how polished it gets over time.
Discussed, of course, the
but the shields and the suspensor belts and lots of ranged weapons does seem like it would really shake up the vibe compared to what I see in Conan.
5 Days at Carthage, which is also exciting because it actually tells you a little bit about the background of the world as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so I mean, as with any developer of any game, right, like we're very passionate about the stories and the lore that we built up. But of course, not everybody's interested in going around and reading every little text snippet that you put into the game. At some point, it becomes a bit tedious. We understand that as well, right? And 5 Days of Carthage, fun little radio play on the Harvester Guild radio, is a kind of a fun way of helping introduce a little bit of that backstory, right? So, like we were mentioning before, this is a game, this is a world where the Atreides and the Harkonnen are in an active conflict. Now, people familiar with the map of Arrakis know that Carthage, which is the Harkonnen kind of stronghold, and Arrakis, which is where the Atreides are based out of, they're way too close together for these conflicts to kind of really feel good.
I mean, there's only so much you can do in a not tab-targeted, reactive gameplay while providing as much freedom as possible.
Destroyed. They're building a new Carthage a bit further away, which is really cool. And there's, of course, a bunch of story explaining how this all happened. And with 5 Days of Carthage, you get the officially approved by the
shield maiden, my wife, letting me know there's a delivery on the porch there. I'll have to grab that in a sec.
Might or might not be.
Well, I wouldn't comment on that. That would be spoiler territory.
Don't get any Sauda cars my way. Yeah, don't send the Sauda cars my way. But so one thing that I personally think is very exciting. So it also
information overload. It is a little bit.
When I first heard some of the segments for some of the cinematics of one of the characters that was also featured in the trailer, I was like, I know that voice. I knew it because I played. Oh, I'm actually just touching my microphone. Apologies to the viewers. I recognized immediately that's Reinhardt from Overwatch. And then I saw also like when we actually released the story trailer, there were so many comments on YouTube as well. Like, that's, what is his name, Valkyrian or something?
Bene Gesserit.
The Destiny 2 character, Valkyrian, I or something. Anyway,
I think that Bene Gesserit Swordmaster combos are going to be super effective.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And besides him, which has an absolutely fantastic voice,
there's some pretty cool abilities in there.
Voice actors. I mean, we have a huge cast of amazing voice actors, and there's just a few that, yes, absolutely. And there's a few in there that
the survival benefits on the Bene Gesserit are pretty extreme, I think. But yeah,
I again remember Symmetra from Overwatch.
I'm going to start with Bene Gesserit myself as well.
She does a really good job.
I want to obviously I want to get all 5 classes, but.
Overall, the whole cast.
Getting started with Bene Gesserit and then Trooper and adding Planetologist into the mix.
A couple of them already.
Kitten.
Then I'll start to feel like I'm really in my groove with the game, just based on the 2 days that I played the beta.
Yeah, I mean, people who played the...
But I'm going to want to get the other 2 as quickly as I can as well, the Mentat and the Swordmaster.
Territory, but it's voiced by the wonderful Mara Junot, who... any session.
Evelyn from League of Legends.
Yes, she does a fantastic job on that one as well.
Yeah.
I think she's been in a couple of different things.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, tons. Like pretty much all those voice actors have a huge. So we are very fortunate and very.
Oh, absolutely.
The passives are give me all the passives. All the passives.
One last one I want to mention though, which is actually. He was part of one of my favorite game series ever, and he voiced one of my favorite game characters ever in Mass Effect. Garrus.
Yes. Renan Keener, he's fantastic. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything.
No, please
stop.
People
who are a fan of the Atreides will get very well acquainted with his character.
Yes.
I think someone might be willing to spoil a bit more. I'm looking over at Leia if she wants to.
Yes, because when you come to like one of the first trade posts, you there's a really cool cinematics. I don't want to spoil that either. But there's a very cool.
Yeah, the only limit is how many points that we actually get to spend. Right, but, like we get 200 levels to spend,
a little bit,
and we can blend them pretty much however we want. We just obviously we can't max everything in all class, which I'm glad they did that because that does mean that your choices will add flavor to your character.
And you as a player had to be able to join them if you want. Of course, this is all of this is optional, but still. You can try to tip the scale a little bit in favor of one of these houses, which again are embroiled in this long, exhausting war. It's been 10 years, so we are 10 years after the Battle of Arrakis. That's when we start the game. So it's been quite a long time, and both houses have exhausted a lot of their resources. They are tired.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. And we can actually change, we can swap out abilities that are not on cooldown at any point.
You as a player,
so it will be interesting to see how that begins to play out.
Well, let's say that the choice doesn't have to be permanent. If you don't want it to be, but
okay, I have to check on something for the Shield Maiden real quick. I'm just going to let this play.
I'm going to say about
and listen, and I'll be back in just a minute here. So I'll put this up here and get my head out of the way, and I'll be back ASAP, guys.
That we do have both factions still on the planet because it gives you more time to also explore their, what drives them, what are their ambitions, and also maybe that things are not always as black and white as some people might think, right, Niels?
I mean, like Leah was mentioning, right? Like it's been 10 years. They've been going at this for a decade. People familiar with the kind of original books will know that it wasn't just that the House Harkonnen themselves decided that they just wanted to get rid of the Atreides. There were larger forces at play, and that is still the case, kind of in the lead up to our story. I mean. The Emperor kind of didn't really want the Duke around. He was a bit of a threat, right? Now, in our version of the story, the Atreides kind of survived that assault, which puts the Emperor in a very awkward situation, which is why he's kind of force this war to be allowed, quote unquote, right? It distracts everybody. They're fighting each other. But now the Harkonnen are stuck in a long war. They're exhausting all their resources, and the Atreides, they're kind of forced into a world where, like, hey, I can't just be the honorable kind of white knight all the time. I'm stuck in a decade-long war. Sometimes they're going to make choices that are not as pretty as they would like, and with enough time, reality starts to set in. Like you don't come out of a war unscathed, you'll get to explore a lot of kind of the effects of a long war and kind of how it's affected both of the sides as you get into the early mid parts of the game and then throughout it afterwards. So look forward to it. We put a ton of effort into it, and we're very excited.
Yeah. And maybe it's, as we mentioned, always so black and white in regards to who are the bad guys and who are the good guys. Maybe the things are kind of gray and...
I'll let you guys decide.
Yes, we'll see. Well, I'm still a Harkonnen, always. Anyway, yeah, see, like, high five. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I think that's a good point because we actually ended with the factions, and we're gonna go soon into our next segment, which also which will also include the Landsrat. So we'll discuss factions again there. But before we do that, Leah, Niels, thank you so much for making time for us and for chatting with me about the story and the narrative. I hope that future players are really excited, and that some of you who might not be that interested in story normally will just still give it a go, because I really do feel it is worth it. It's fun. There is some really cool voice actors. There's some really great cinematics, fully voiced. Even in the smaller part, like we just discussed, like the mentor storylines, side quests and things. So there's definitely a lot